Welcome. My name is Heather Landry. I'll be the moderator for this session. There's actually two presentations scheduled for this session. The first one, which will be Charleston County 911 becomes an information sharing hub using GIS. And the presenter will be Mr. Bart Coghill with SCRA, which is the South Carolina Research Authority. And a little bit of background on Mr. Coghill. He's a senior engineer with SCRA ATI. What is ATI?
It's a group with inside their Advanced Technologies.
Advanced Technologies? Okay. His responsibilities include geospatial information system software support for the Watchkeeper portal development for the U.S. Coast Guard Command, Control and Communications Engineering Center, and Alistar. Wide area situational awareness GIS integration for Charleston County Consolidated 911 Center. Mr. Coghill received his BS in Mechanical Engineering from the University of Tennessee. He's a certified project manager and has his certification from the SANS Institute as the GIAC intrusion analyst. Anyways, Mr. Coghill.
Okay, Harry, I'll do this morning. So I'm going to try and speak more towards the information sharing of GIS and what we've done inside of Charleston County as it relates to the Consolidated 911 Center down there, the U.S. Coast Guard, and then all of the kind of the stakeholders in that community, which is all the public safety from fire, law, EMS, as well as Coast Guard, our private organizations, because we've got a lot of, in the port, we've got a lot of private partners there, in addition to some of the other federal and local entities. I don't have a whole lot of slides. Probably where I'll focus is kind of on this slide. It's a lot going on here, but inside of that community, we started with the U.S. Coast Guard. They wanted to be able to provide some protection to the port and have an understanding of what's going on in that port area. So one of the ways they're doing that is looking at data from a geospatial perspective. A lot of the agencies already have that. I mean, I'm not sure what the makeup of this crowd is, but a lot of the agencies already understand GIS data, have GIS data available in some shape or form, and the challenge is the U.S. Coast Guard wants to own nothing, but they want the knowledge of that. And so inside of the Charleston area, the logical point for us to try and bring all that together, since we already had this movement of consolidating all the 911 centers in the Charleston County area, was the 911 center. So they already bring, because of the nature of consolidation on 911, they bring fire, law, and EMS and some of the other stakeholders already together. And so we chose to leverage that, working with the 911 center and the U.S. Coast Guard and some of the other stakeholders in there. We deployed a GIS software solution that we could take and make available to that community in a very low admin type way. So it's a web-based solution. And what we've done inside of Charleston County is we've connected all the major jurisdictions through the beginning of what you might hear in the Next Gen 911 world is that IZNet piece of the puzzle to Next Gen 911. So they basically, and all that really is creating that interagency network that we connect all of those agencies. We bring in all of their data into the 911 center in addition to the CAD and AVL information. So they may have GIS data, they may have camera data, they may have whatever else is in that bucket of data that we're trying to build that overall situational awareness view. Bring that into the 911 center, and then the 911 center kind of acts as that hub for distributing that information out either over that private network, over a secure VPN connection, or over just an internet connection through a proxy server that we've provided to them. You can kind of get a flavor of the type of information that's coming in. A lot of data from these organizations right here, you know, whether that's static information or weather data, camera feeds, social media coming in, a lot of IP cameras coming into the solution, and those cameras could be owned by the Department of Transportation, by the U.S. Coast Guard, by private entities, we're working to bring in their in-car cameras into the solution. And I'll show you a little bit about the solution as well. We'll actually bring that up, the Charleston County instance, and bring that up, show you that. Cellular tracking, in addition to we track all the cargo ships, because we're a port community, tracking of the big container ships, whether that's tugboats or cargo or pleasure craft, that's important to them. So we track all those vessels, we get that data in real time. We get your AVL information in coming from your CAD systems, that's coming in real time. Like I said, cell phone tracking. Basically, it's very flexible in how we can integrate data in. We bring it all in, provide that out into one display, and then because we're web-based and we have those, we can set those user controls up on who can get what data. That's one of the other big points from my perspective, from a technology perspective. We get all this data in there. We don't always want everybody to see all data for whatever that reason. It could be because it might be information overload, or it could be because they're not authorized to store that data. So we fix it up on the back end so somebody like in Charleston County, Matt, who's their GIS analyst, can determine he can create roles for these folks, and those roles would be entitled to see certain layers of data or certain data. So you can control on who gets what data and how that view, when it comes up, is presented to that end user. So that enables us to share it out with all the local community who are already part of the 911 center, or share it out to some of your other agencies, whether they're state and federal, like SLED and the U.S. Coast Guard. That's just a busy slide on Alistar. There's just a bunch of sales type stuff. So I'm going to go right over to this right now. I'm inside, I'd be inside of my application, but I forgot my key fob this morning. So I logged into Charleston County. So this is live in the Charleston County 911 Center. And you can see that there's weather information that we bring in from both NOAA as well as some commercial sources. So we can mix and match that data. As you understand about GIS data, you can change based on map extents and those type of things when this data layer goes off and this one comes on, to provide some of that smooth transition. The end user can configure on the fly, the type of things they want to see as it relates to weather, whether that's radar or alerts or even hurricanes. You can even go in here and bring up all the hurricane information that's coming from NOAA, both in real time or go back and look at historical information. One of the things I wanted to show you though was this is our harbor view. We say harbor view of Charleston. So this is real-time information. So what you're seeing there right now are all these circle items here represent AVL. That could be AVL for the City of Charleston, North Charleston, Sheriff's Office. Right now they have this plain vanilla view where everything is, all AVL units are represented the same, but they could set it up where that symbology changes based on a rule. That could be for a status, or that could be I only want to see the City of Charleston versus North Charleston. All these diamond type events, same thing, kind of generic. These are all events coming directly from the CAD system. So these are all calls for service that are happening in real time right there. So there's a vandalism that's going on right now. City of Charleston is reporting to that. The other units over there, those are fire AVL. And then these other triangular items, it's all symbology. You can do whatever you want with symbology. These are all representing vessel movement in the port. So these are container ships. These are vessels that are unknown currently. These are all tugboat vessels. And then that's a cruise ship right there. Based on the symbology color, it's Carnival Cruise, probably waiting to take off, leave it on another voyage. So those are all just representations of the type of data that's being fed into it from the various agencies, and that's all data that's coming in there very dynamically. And it's all configurable based on however that end user wants to see that. One of the other things that we provide there is, so this is a list of some of the layers that are in the system. This is a list that Matt and them have chosen that they see the most, they want to see the most, so they kind of put this in their quick list to pick from. And they can, and an end user can come in there and choose what they want to see, so they might want to configure this differently. Depending on who you are, you log in, you see different groups of layers, and inside of those groupings of layers, all based on your user role, what will be populated inside of there. So I'm going to show you real quickly on that right there aspect of it. So this is kind of the back end side that Matt has. He can go in and just click on layer groups, and all that layer groups that you saw on that list were all things that he can come in here and add, delete, change who gets access to what. He can drill down into that. So you can see that there's like 150 layers that they currently have in the system. He can drag and drop what he wants to go from side to side, and then what user groups he wants to see that particular layer or role. And the only reason I say that is, point that out, is it's very easy for him to dynamically fill those, and then once he saves that, it's pushed out to everybody. Because it's a web-based application, there is no reloading a client, updating a client that's got to go on. So it's all focused around how do I share information out rapidly to that community, and how do I get that out to the biggest group of users. So one of the other things that they're wrestling with right now is the law guys don't want to share information with the fire guys all the time. But they do want to share it if a major event happens. So they have to figure out what they're categorizing as a major event. So the option that we provided to them is that Matt can create a role that's normally disabled. And then he gives access to either a CAD supervisor or a law enforcement deputy chief or police chief. They can go into the tools menu and click a button that's labeled major events, and as soon as they do that, that data is now made available to everybody that was in that role that they had disabled. So they can share that on the fly without having to call, a developer or call in Matt to be able to enable that data to be shared out with folks. So it's how do we get that data out there rapidly? How do we ingest all the data that we need and then control access to that? So those are some of the things that we're working with them on, how to do that. I mean, we have a lot of the other standard kind of map features that you would see inside of GIS when it comes to, tools and things like that. I can drill in, right mouse click on anywhere on the map, and if there are cameras inside of that boundary I just clicked, it will bring them up. If I resize that boundary, maybe I didn't see anything, I want to resize that boundary, I can resize that boundary, and if there are cameras in there, they would appear inside of that view. Or you can just go back internal all cameras, for which in this situation of Charleston, there are hundreds and hundreds of cameras that we have access to. So inside of that, you have the Department of Transportation cameras. You can see there's some rain on the glass. What we have set up for the client right now in their view when they do these mouse overs, that it's updating the camera images 1 frame every 2 seconds. So it's not streaming video, but we want to control bandwidth. So we update those frames once every 2 seconds. The other thing about that, what you can do is if you want to start getting into where you're really seeing real-time video, there's some camera views that I have already created. You can create your own camera views, and let me back out. I probably jumped on that one a little much. What you can do is there's all the cameras. When you turn them on, it creates another selection called active layers, so you can just go to that instead of searching through where everything is at. Turn those layers off rapidly. And your cameras, just delete these out since they're on my account. Create a camera group. Then I can select cameras from this list. I've selected this draw tool, and I can just, in this case, I'm going to do it around this one. I can select a group of cameras, or I can select one camera. That particular camera is on one of the water tributaries down there, and you can pull all those. So you can create your own view of cameras, which cameras you want to see. And you might do that based on events, like what we're getting ready to do in Charleston with the bridge run. We're creating these different camera views based on different sections of the bridge. You can launch those into a separate web browser. So if you have a multi-screen display, then you can drag and drop those over to whatever that screen is. I want to see this list of cameras over there, and then I can just clear that off my map. We drag in alerts. There again, on the backside, we're consuming all of the what's called CAP alerts, and that could be anything from Amber alerts to any of those type of groups. You can further define these groups, make them more granular, or collapse them more. You could just say alerts, and everything could go into one alert bucket, or you could further define that. And then we drag in other type of user alerts based on other attributes that the end user might set. But the goal is information sharing from both in the field user to that command and control to maybe that police chief or fire chief at his desk. Or in the case of like what we're doing with the bridge run, we're setting up a remote command and control. So we're going to be creating very specific views of that information, since it's all focused around the Ravenel Bridge, figuring out the data set that needs to be viewed there by those folks, and that's the view that we're presenting to them. And they'll be able to look at that remotely without even being on their network, because they won't be on the network. They're all doing this from a remote location. So if they have internet connectivity, or they have connectivity back to the network in some shape or form, they can get access to all that information and share that out with everybody. And in this case, it's kind of I think it's an enhanced version of the bridge run, since the incidents with the Boston Marathon, they're kind of ramping things up. So there's a lot more players involved, so you got to be able to share that data out somehow. In addition to, we've built some an application for a phone in which they can deploy that application. If they have other officers, they can now track them on inside of Alistar from the cellular phone tracking piece. The other thing I didn't mention up front, because it is a web-based application, it's mainly based on HTML5, Java, and JavaScript. That it really doesn't matter what web browser. We can run this on, as you see, I've got it up on Firefox. I can run that on Safari or IE or Chrome. And it's a responsive design, so it doesn't really matter about the device type. It can be a laptop, a tablet. I can even pull it up on my Android phone, and it automatically kind of a responsive design and automatically readjusts itself to that device. It's probably going. I don't know where I'm at in time.
Got a few more minutes.
So if you have any questions for me, I would much rather take your questions than run on. But that's what we're doing inside of Charleston County.
There's one lady back here who has a question.
Yes.
So you were mentioning that you could serve up people that were undercover on this, and obviously you have a separate permission set up for those people.
Yes.
But how secure is this really? Like, how long have you been using this? Like, how secure can people be that this information is secure?
As I would say that because I have a background in security, so I would say nothing is ever absolutely secure. And so we build a lot of secure applications that we run for the U.S. Coast Guard out of their data center. And so we can make it as secure as the encryption will allow us to do that. So I don't really know how to answer that, other than we apply all the best practices for security and all of the security practices that you might see coming down from DOJ and some of this. So a lot of the CJIS requirements they put in there, so for NCIC data, those are really kind of best practices for securing data. And so we do that across everything that we do. But I will never say that anything's 100% secure, because given enough time, we can crack it all. One of the other aspects that we didn't talk about here that we're looking at doing is tying in the ability to detect all the wireless devices that are within a given area. So for the bridge run, there's a start and a finish line. So we're looking at how to take an existing technology from another provider and integrate that data and pinpoint on there all of the access points, all the cell phone locations, more from a forensic value than a real-time prevention type. Unless you knew of certain information that you were looking for, then you could have it trip on that. Just like we're doing with social media, we've got these blacklists and things that are created, and as they're doing the bridge run, these things start getting tweeted, and it matches some of these, and that's going to pop up to the front, and then an analyst would take a look at that and see if that's something they need to send somebody to, or maybe take a little bit more of a view of that and try to dig into that one. We do, you can use all the right buzzwords with AES, with encryption, and 256, but there's always ways around that from a social engineering standpoint.
Are those all the layers directly connect to the back-end database, or you publish a service?
Yes, so we have a publish and service, so go back to this screen, which may. So right there, we house data locally. So obviously we have the 911 center. When I say we, the 911 center houses all of their CAD and AVL data locally. They house a lot of GIS data locally that the county produces. And then we bring in a lot of data from REST services from the city of Charleston or North Charleston or DHEC, NOAA. So like an example of DHEC, they provide a REST service that we go out and consume, and that kind of, so we don't have, because we're not looking to be massaging data all day long. So they give us the data on daycares and schools and hospitals, we bring that in. Just like all the data from NOAA, that's all of a REST service. Or it could be some other type of a feed that's coming in. It could be an RSS feed. We pull in, actually the state of South Carolina produces an RSS feed for all wildfire data. We bring that in. So we're very flexible on how we can integrate data into the system. We can take the standard ways that Esri provides, but we can expand upon them and have expanded upon them. We utilize that JavaScript API. We use a little bit of piece of that for displaying some of these maps that is Esri based, but everything is compliant with Esri. So if you have Esri REST services, I can add in a new Esri REST layer in about 60 seconds and drop that onto the map and then put that in a group, share that out with the community of users.
So CAD data is directly connected to the system. You're not pushing out a service, you just connect.
We're connecting to that system. They do not want this at this point. They do in the future, but right now they don't want this to be a data entry point per se. They want it to be a consumer of all that information. We could enter data back in, publish that data back up, and we because there's multiple systems that are hitting this, we will end up be pushing some data back up when it comes to like using cell phones for data collection pieces.
So this one is hosted on the 911. You said 911 center.
Charleston
so
County.
911 center will allow outsiders coming in, feeding into all the data layers and all the
That's what they
data.
do today. That's what they do today. And this is, all these folks over here are all organizations that make up the consolidated 911 center. So those are all partners in which the 911 center is dispatching for. These other folks, EMD and EMS, well, they actually dispatch for EMS as well. But there's other organizations such as SLED, Coast Guard, other entities like that. We have private entities, BP, CMMC, which is a port terminal area down there. They share that data back out to those folks. They're not necessarily contributing anything, but because of the stakeholder they are, it's important for them to kind of understand that data.
So county dictates, 911 center dictates whether we, pull the data in or out. It's up to them. It's not SLED decision.
It's not SLED, it's the county's decision to do that. And then the county has a board that has all the chiefs of police and fire and EMS that sit on that board. So it's really that board that kind of guides what is shared and how that's shared. But this is the mechanism. The 911 center is the mechanism to do that. Any other questions? All right. I'm good to go home.